It's the most wonderful voice.
Oh, I haven't started. I haven't started with Matthew McConaughey.
Well, but we're going to add that in later.
Yeah, I mean, we are going to do that. We are going to do that bumper scene with McConaughey and DiCaprio from Wolf of Wall Street. The one, the one where McCon does a little bump and then orders vodka until they pass out.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that not appropriate?
No, that's. I mean, aren't we doing that right now?
We are. I don't even know. Okay, starting again. 3, 2, 1, action.
Hey, thanks for joining us. And
don't you just love the sound of Matthew McConaughey?
I was just trying to do the cold open. What?
Okay, we'll do. Okay, 3, 2, 1, go.
Well, now I'm not ready. Okay.
Okay. Are you ready now?
Okay. Welcome to.
Okay, go ahead whenever you're ready.
Wait, so are we patching in McConaughey?
Yeah, he's on the line right now. He just hasn't said anything yet because he's waiting for you to do the cold open.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Okay.
We can afford to have him holding for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Welcome to Stonks and More, How to Be Less Poor with Kevin and Greg. It's the podcast for millennial investors, even if they don't know yet, even if they don't invest, even if they don't know anything about economics, taxes, anything.
Yeah,
because we're exactly like us.
We're kind of in the same boat where we don't know a whole lot about any of that stuff either. And this is the whole point of this, is that we can use this time to learn in public and embarrass ourselves publicly. So hopefully you don't have to.
Yeah, I mean, learn from our mistakes.
Of which there are many. I mean, you've made a lot of mistakes. I haven't actually made any mistakes, but
that's true. I mean, mistake number one is just taking this call with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've been making a mistake virtually my whole life ever since I became friends with you. It's all been downhill.
Yeah. I mean, you're not really known for the best decisions.
I mean, I'd like to disagree with you, but I can't find any.
On what grounds?
Yeah, exactly.
So right. I'm the Kevin from the Kevin and Greg, and I live just north of Vancouver, so I'm calling in from Canada's west coast. I'm 3 hours back in time compared to. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about you.
Nobody cares about where you are. That's not important. And by process of elimination, I am Greg of the Kevin and Greg. I live just outside of Toronto. And I guess by his back in time measure, I'm in the present.
So would you say you live in the GTA?
I would say that.
Excellent.
I would say I would live in the A of the GTA. Like the area of the
area. Yeah.
I drive through forest.
It's not Toronto. It's not great. It's not Toronto, but it's the area surrounding it. So I guess if we had a legal team, the legal team would probably be saying we should put some sort of caveat that like this is definitely not investment advice. Don't follow any of it. Strictly for entertainment purposes. And realistically, you're probably not going to really even be that entertained. So,
and to be fair, if we had a legal team, they would probably spend most of their time trying to get us out of all the crimes that we've committed, and not have enough time to offer up legal advice to you in terms of not listening to us. So, yeah, I guess take our non-legal advice as legal advice, and we just saved you a couple $100. So,
now you might be thinking, when Greg just said all of the illegal things, they're like, wow, that guy's an asshole. He talks a big game. I bet he's such a loser. Well, this is the third time we've tried this recording. We had to scrap the first two because both of us admitted to felonies.
Allegedly admitted to felonies.
Allegedly admitted to felonies. Yeah.
But like the fun kind where like nobody gets hurt.
Yeah, like the white collar kind. Like not only does nobody get hurt, but barely anybody ever gets reprimanded.
If anything, they congratulate you for it.
Again, if we had a legal team, they would also be saying this is not a podcast for illegal financial advice either.
Yeah.
While we probably will do an episode on money laundering, it will be for fun, not for advice. And I guess really just like a proper caveat. Neither of us really know anything about finance or investing. And
or
again,
crimes,
it's like
really, we're not very good at that either.
Or crimes. Yeah, and I mean we've tried all of those things to. I mean, marginal success would be a huge lie. Anything with success in it would be a huge lie. We've marginally tried those things.
It's kind of sad. Yeah. Stay in school, kids. Stay in school.
So again, it's like we have a very rudimentary understanding of the finance world, and I think that's where the idea to start this podcast came from. It's because we really want to undertake this journey so that we're not fucking broke anymore, and we kind of figured that there's probably a lot of people in Canada of our similar age with a similar lack of knowledge about the financial world. And maybe we can all go figure out some shit together. Who knows? Maybe not. I mean, at the end of the day, after this podcast, the one takeaway is you'll be able to go down to the RBC, and when Mark down there at the RBC is trying to sell you a GIC, you can tell him to fuck off, and you'll at least have enough big fancy words to sound like you kind of know what you're talking about.
Or you just say fuck off.
Yeah. Fuck off, Rand.
All right. Yeah. So on that note, I think we should probably explain a bit about who we are and how we got to the place that we're at, and then maybe I don't know.
Do you want me to go first, so that when you bore out whatever audience is actually listening to us, they don't. Nah, fuck, never mind. You go first.
Well, now I gotta pretend. Okay, well, I'm a professional astronaut / bank robber / ninja, and that's it. Now you follow that up, Kevin. Go ahead.
I mean, just a quick question is like, do you find that there's some sort of like intersectionality between all of those skills, and that like moving like a ninja on spacewalks is pretty handy?
Are you telling me you don't know anything about space ninjas?
Yeah.
Because if you don't, I don't even know what to do. I don't even know.
Well, you probably can't even talk about it.
Yeah. Well, it's classified. There we go. All right. Well, on a more serious-ish note, I guess. I took the advice of my high school guidance counselor and went to university because apparently that's the right thing to do. I studied something useless. And then subsequently graduated right as the financial world was coming crashing down all around us in 2009.
What did you actually take in school that had no economic viability? Feminist basket weaving?
Essentially basket weaving, yes. Political science and
feminist
science.
Underwater dance theory?
I mean, to be fair, it helped with the ninja astronauting, all right?
That's true.
I brought that to bear quite a bit. So then once that was done, I was able to get a job working as a bank teller. Thought bank tellers made a lot of money. They don't. Barely above minimum wage. And the major thing I learned working at a bank was that banks hate you. They pretend to like you, but they hate you, and they just want to take away all your money. So that didn't work out for me. I didn't enjoy working there. So since then I worked in construction. I worked doing traffic data collection, a whole bunch of weird jobs like that. I now work for the government. And all the time that I've been doing that, I've been focusing on building wealth through real estate primarily. So I bought to call the original house that I bought a fixer-upper would be an understatement. It was, I don't know, I guess a crack den, I think would be the medical term for it. Required pretty much every piece of work possible that a house could have. And fixed that up and then refinance that one to buy a rental property duplex, which is also needing a ton of work, which I did as well. And that's kind of where I am right now. Mortgaged up the ass. What about you? Do you have anything to share that's not as cool as space ninjaing?
Well, I mean, I have one thing to say is like you have a cognitive science degree. and you had to work at a bank to realize that they fucking hate us. Had you never been to a bank before?
I've seen the commercials. They're always smiling and waving, and they're always like, "Hey, we'll help you do stuff."
So
I'm sure in a later episode we'll get into all the ways in which banks screw you over, and while there's way better ways to operate, but we'll get into that later on, I guess.
I mean, I'm definitely looking forward to that episode, because one thing I do enjoy doing is if I've had like a tough day or a tough week, I sometimes just go down to the bank and just yell at them. And amongst the things that's netted me, one time, $50 credit from CIBC. How about that?
There you go. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you made a bank teller cry, so it was win-win.
I think she killed herself. So I call that a win-win-win.
It's a triple win. Yeah.
Yeah. It's elusive. And you need a very deft control of the English language, so that you can really find the knife and twist it. But I guess to match your bio, well, you have a fancy degree that sounds pretty neat. I have the opposite. I have a diploma in camping, and I went to business school for a year. Then I dropped out. So,
which for the record, when it happened, I was like, still in the mindset that university was super important to be successful. And when Kevin dropped out, I thought he was going to be homeless in days. It actually took weeks for him to be homeless, so it was pretty a testament to his abilities.
It's true. I did last a couple of weeks. No, but what I feel like what I may lack in formal education, I might have, probably not, but I might have made up with some real world knowledge. So I've done a whole bunch of different jobs as well. Starting at Harvey's in Home Depot as a burger flipper. And then from there, like, I worked at a outdoor store, I taught skiing. I was a ski guide at backcountry ski operation for a while. I worked on a firefighting, fought wildfires in BC for a summer. Worked on the oil rigs.
But you didn't do it. You didn't fight the fires in space. So I'm still cooler than you. But go on.
That's true. I worked on a drilling rig for 2 winters as a roughneck in Alberta. I started 3 different video production companies. Worked as an independent producer in the advertising agency, and now I'm with my third production company called Scrap Creative, and we're like a really small boutique production house, and we basically make really high-end commercials and advertising. And
hey, stop trying to plug your company. That's not what this is about.
Oh yeah. And by the way, if you are in the market for a really high-end commercial or advertising product, you should call me. That's Scrap Creative.
I mean, it's to be fair, it's terrible. Like, what Kevin does is terrible, but the team that he works with is actually pretty good. So
yeah, I mean,
they do good work.
That has been the theme of my entire life. I could actually start a whole other alternative podcast called "If You Suck at Everything, Get Good at Making Friends."
Yes, but as a counterpoint to your ability to make good friends, me.
You can also make poor friends. Yeah. So I guess just to quickly go over like how I think we want to structure this show is we basically want to start at the beginning of financial literacy and start to work our way through, the basic concepts, building blocks, and foundations of investing, finance, and just figuring out how to really make our money work for us. And at some point, we'd probably like to discover and figure out and build collectively, some pathways to financial freedom, because we are already going to be paying for the boomers' retirement. So we might as well figure out how to pay for our own.
Yeah, that's because you're going to need to save twice as much so you can pay for theirs and yours.
That's very true.
Yeah.
and on that note, I think one of like the really more poignant topics we could probably jump into right now, seeing as we are recording this mid COVID-19 era, is the benefit of an emergency fund. I don't have an emergency fund. Well, I mean, I do. It's a line of credit. That's not the emergency fund you want, or the one that we're talking about. Greg, why don't you? I mean, you actually have an emergency fund, so why don't you tell me and everybody else what that's like?
Sure. So let's start from the very beginning.
The etymology of emergency.
The letter E. Sesame Street defines E as. All right. So an emergency fund. It is a fund that you can use in emergencies. Yeah. So, like, say for example, I don't know, like theoretically, there is a giant global pandemic and the entire economy shuts down and millions of people lose their jobs and we are forced to stay at home and watch shows about meth heads operating tiger prisons or something to that effect.
Wait, sorry, but you're saying that like that's a negative.
I mean, not the meth head tiger prison part, but yeah, I guess it's all positive. It's all positive, all good and fun and great. Yeah. So long story short, I'll give you a more reasonable example. Like, so let's say something that happened to me. Probably happened to a lot of our listeners.
I believe you meant to say so. To make a short story long,
which is that not what the whole point of this? We're trying to draw this out as long as possible, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So something happened to me. Could have happened to anybody. Probably has happened to a lot of our listeners. You take too much LSD before you go to work. Excuse me. You take too much LSD before you go to work, and your bosses think it's inappropriate for you to run around naked, covered in butter. Hold on. Oh, I got the COVID. Oh.
I mean,
you're gonna have to edit that part.
Not to just start to take apart your hypothetical here, but it really sounds to me like you need some new leadership in that office.
Yeah. I mean, I think I had a good idea of being covered in butter because the security guards couldn't get a hold of me, kept slipping out, and I was able to go for hours.
I'd say. And I mean, it's like, how bad is margarine? Right? Would you want to do that with margarine? I don't think so.
No, see, these are the things that we learn, right? Learning from other people's adventures. So I was unjustly fired for doing this, and then I was out of work, right? So the emergency fund, the idea behind it is that you keep 3 to 6 months of cash in a bank account or under your mattress or wherever you want to keep it, to basically cover your expenses for 3 to 6 months. And this isn't like 3 to 6 months of you like going out to eat every day and like partying all the time and stuff like that. It's just like 3 to 6 months of your basic things, so you can pay your mortgage or your rent, you can keep your lights on, you can put gas in your car, so you can go out and find a job and do all that kind of stuff. Obviously you keep the essentials on there, like food and drugs and stuff like that, but everything else you cut down at that point, which is more of a budgeting question than an emergency fund question. But yeah.
Right. So I guess to make your long story short, we're not talking about like an insanely complex concept here so much as like have a couple grand set aside in cash in an account that doesn't really cost you anything to just keep it there. Best case is it could make a couple points on the old interest. Best case.
But its purpose is not to make money. Its purpose is to hang out and just be there when you need it.
Its purpose essentially is to prevent you from starving and losing your house. And
and not to do what I did when I finally got my first emergency fund, was use it to buy a car.
Well, especially a Hyundai.
No, that was a Mazda. It was a sweet Mazda.
Oh, the Mazda 3?
Mazda 5. Yeah. So,
zoom.
Brag, but
yeah,
C6,
I mean,
no big deal.
just one other point. Your hypothetical is like a little bit off base because like I've actually done acid at work before. Made me smarter. Yep.
All right. I have no comment on that.
But again, to sort of like echo what you're saying, it's like I feel that too right now in the whole COVID era. So with our production company, we were bidding on like 4 or 5 different jobs, and I mean, who's to say?
Is that the Scrap Creative, the premier production company in the West Coast?
Yeah. Well, not just the West Coast. It's Scrap Creative, like the definitive commercial production company in Canada, and I mean probably North America, and I mean colloquially, the world.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, we're really looking at space as like an emerging market where we want to expand to next.
Space ninjas.
Yeah, we've got this super cool concept. Put a couple gay space ninjas.
I'm on it.
You're in it. You're in him. You're in him.
Anyway, him. I interrupted you by being cool.
I mean, most of that's going to have to get edited out. So I'll start again from the top. So again, to sort of echo Greg's hypotheticals, like I have a bit more of a real world example. As we mentioned, obviously we're recording this in the middle of the COVID era, and with my production company, so we were bidding on like 4 or 5 different jobs, and again, like who knows if we would have won them or not. All of those jobs canceled or indefinitely postponed, and then we had 3 jobs that we had actually won that were in various states of like pre-production, ready to go to camera. All of them canceled, and then we haven't really had a job come across our desk to bid on, do, or fucking even do for super cheap and lose a bunch of money on it. We haven't had one of those come across our desk for a month. So, perfect example as to the benefit of an emergency fund. Because I haven't been paid in about a month and a half.
Yeah. It's supposed to be rough.
What's that?
Yeah, that which is not ideal to be not paid. But as far as I know, starting a podcast is the best way to make an infinite amount of money really quickly. So I think we're guaranteed to be successful doing this. So yeah.
What's the idiot colloquialism? What's the best way to lose? What's the best way to make $1 million podcasting? Start with 2.
Yeah, I think it's about airlines and becoming a millionaire. Start as a billionaire and then start an airline. I think is the thing.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Let's not start an airline though. I think that's probably the best plan.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. So the key thing to remember with an emergency fund is keep it in a separate bank account from your usual checking account. Ideally, like you said, one that pays a bit of interest. And all right, let me start over again. Ideally, what you want to do with an emergency fund is keep it in a separate bank account, and you want to use one that pays you a bit of interest, doesn't charge you any fees. A lot of people will just use the savings account from the big 5 banks, which are not generally ideal because they tend to charge you fees if you're doing more than a certain number of transactions and stuff like that. The advantage of those is that you can access your money quickly, but the disadvantage is, again, it's usually more expensive and they don't really pay much in the way of interest. So if you did either Tangerine or Ally or one of those similar online banks, then that's a good way to usually not pay any fees and get a little bit of money back for your money. The other thing is,
what about burying it?
Burying it?
Let's say if you had like a super dope backyard and some shovels.
How many shovels?
Minimum 2.
Yeah, well, I like to keep the space open in my backyard in the off chance that I murder somebody and I need to bury them in my backyard, or better yet, in your backyard.
I mean, valid. Not the best solution, but valid.
But valid. That's what I'm going for. Not the best, but also valid.
Yeah. That was in the original elevator pitch of this podcast, but I think we cut that out. Oh no! That was when we were like, no, we should just show, not tell. We'll show them how marginal we are, not just tell them.
I think we've done a fantastic job so far of demonstrating our truly marginal everything about us.
Maybe we could change the name to Not Quite Average.
I prefer Stonks and More, How to Not Be Poor, because it rhymes.
That's true.
Yeah. And also Stonks. Come on.
That's the hard
Stonks
part.
is a funny meme.
It's contemporary, no doubt.
All right, we got to wind this up because I got to go.
You mean wind this down?
Wind it sideways.
No problem.
Get the winding.
Okay, so just the final close off. So would you say like the other key part of the emergency fund is having, let's say, like an emergency strategy? And I say that in the sense of like, if you're dipping into your emergency fund, it means that, well, fuck, there's an emergency, hypothetically, like a global pandemic. Now, if you're dipping into your emergency fund, how do you think you should sort of adapt or evolve the rest of your lifestyle? I think you kind of touched on it a little bit. I mean, I see some obvious shit. Granted, I'm also not the best with saving money, but it's like probably want to cut down on the amount of booze and weed you're buying. Probably want to cook more at home and not go out for dinner at all. Probably want to limit any and all extraneous expenses outside of like absolutely what you need to be moving forward. And I guess on that note too, with the emergency fund, there's also probably some benefit in figuring out what your like lowest monthly operating number is. You know, it's like obviously everybody knows where their sweet spot is, and it's like figuring out where your number is so that the lights stay on, the children stay fed, and that you and your wife don't want to kill each other.
Yeah, and I mean, unless you and your wife want to kill each other anyway. It's like my wife usually wants to kill me, so I've just accepted that as normal. Although I gotta say, when we have a nice fully funded emergency fund, the likelihood of her wanting to kill me is a lot lower.
Slightly less.
Slightly less. Like 5% less, which is 5% is 5%. Like that's especially when we get into compound interest, that adds up over time, right?
That does add up. Okay, well, I think we've got like 27 minutes here.
Yeah.
So I think we could probably edit something kind of cool. And then what's your deal if you're at work? You can't do another recording or two over the next little bit?
Well, I could do one after 7:00. I don't know if that's putting it pretty close or what, but.
Well, I mean, that still gives us like 5 hours before the deadline.
It's 11:59. Right. Okay. Yeah.
ET. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Right, well, why don't
I seriously do have to get back. So, like, we can probably maybe you can just record it on your own or whatever, or like a closing, or we can at 7:00 do another one of these bad boys. Just kind of summing up. Hello.
Yo, I'm listening.
Just kind of summing it up, like what we talked about and stuff. Or if you want to do that, like 7:00, if you want to start putting this together. But I mean, I'm not a good judge of this, but that sounded like it was reasonably funny and kind of good. I don't know how informative it was, but
I mean, I think bits and pieces of it were for sure.
Yeah. Like if you to compare that down to like 10 minutes or something like that.
Yeah. Cool.
Oh,
well, I'm gonna try. Oh yeah. I'm gonna flip into some dad mode here, and then I'll talk to you in a bit.
All right. Cool.
All right. See you, dude. Later. Bye.